This was the scene back in 2019 when a Chicago teenager was mistakenly shot by a suburban police officer chasing a bank robber. Now a major settlement for the teen has been reached in that case.
Okay, so this story is a wild story. This is Rylan Wilder. Now, he was an intern at Upbeat Music and Art, a music school in Chicago, where he cleaned instruments and emptied the trash. Now, on September 19th, 2019, police were pursuing an armed bank robbery suspect. Now, that person had just robbed the nearby Chase Bank, and while police were chasing him, the man entered the music store that Wilder worked at. Now, the man ran behind Wilder, and this is what happened.
In November of 2019, Rylan Wilder was just 15 years old. He was working at a Chicago music shop when a suspected bank robber with a gun came charging in. Chasing after him was a Des Plaines police officer. After about 10 shots were fired from a high-powered rifle, the suspect, who had already shot an officer, was dead. Wilder was also hit. The bullet tore a hole through his arm. He's had more than 15 surgeries, but still has no feeling in his left arm, hand, or fingers.
Now, as you can see, that officer came through the door very hot. Now, one of the key tenets of gun safety is you have to be sure of your target and what's not only in front of your target, but what's behind your target.
And rule number 4, know your target. What's beyond it, in front of it, to the left and the right of it. Here's the thing, guys. You're responsible for every single round until it stops moving. Got it? That means if you miss your target, it travels 2 miles away, hits some little girl playing on a playground, that's your fault. That's involuntary manslaughter. Way to go. If you're in an actual shooting and you miss somebody or it goes through somebody and hits somebody else, guess what? That's your fault. You're responsible for every round until it stops moving. You shoot a gun accidentally in a house, negligently in a house, goes through a wall, and hits somebody on the other side. That's your fault. You're responsible for every round until it stops. So you got to know your target, what's beyond it, to the left, to the right of it, and in front.
Now, this officer firing at the suspect seemed to have failed this core tenet. You can clearly see that his line of fire is not clear when he starts shooting at the suspect. Now, to put it simply, there's an innocent teen between him and the target, and he accidentally shoots through the teen to engage the target. Now, the teen's lawyer claimed that the officer acted recklessly by not obeying this critical tenet of gun safety. Now, the officer claimed that he did not see the teen when he chased the suspect into the store, and in the heat of the moment, he was blind to the teen's presence.
The Cook County State's Attorney's Office has ruled a shooting by a suburban police officer justified, even though he accidentally hit a teenager while aiming for a fleeing bank robber. They say the officer said he didn't see the teen when he opened fire back in 2019 inside a Chicago music store.
Now, the DA's office claimed the shooting was justified, and they did not charge the officer with any criminal wrongdoing.
The officer who fired the shots told investigators he didn't see Wilder. The Cook County State's Attorney's Office ruled the shooting justified and reasonable, given the circumstances, and decided not to press criminal charges.
See, the officer also claims that the suspect turned and pointed the weapon at him, which caused him to fire upon the suspect. So essentially, in a split-second choice, the officer fired his weapon hitting the teen, which the officer truly regrets.
While the fleeing suspect was off camera, lab analysis and an autopsy determined he had turned back toward the officer and raised his weapon. The Des Plaines officer told investigators he simply didn't see the teen, who was also in his line of fire. The review found the angles in the videos support Officer Armstrong's statement that while he was focused to his right, firing at Willis, he did not see Wilder to his left. Thus, there is no credible evidence to indicate that Officer Armstrong intended to shoot Wilder.
So the DA claims that the officer was not reckless, but justified. Now, I think this is a horrible situation. The officer in pursuit of an armed and dangerous suspect. Adrenaline is high, emotions are high, and we also have to remember that really no officers are robots, and that this is clearly a mistake. But on the other side, you have the teen who was clearly in the line of fire, and the officer did shoot him. So the law split the baby. The officer was not charged criminally, but held essentially civilly responsible. More training may be necessary in hopes to avoid this type of event in the future, but we all must understand accidents do occur. The family received a $1.9 million settlement with the police department after nearly 4 years of litigation.
Today we're learning more about the nearly $2 million settlement the city of Des Plaines will be paying out.
Now, it comes 4 years after a Des Plaines police officer shot a 15-year-old boy while pursuing a bank robbery suspect. Asal Razai live in the newsroom this morning with an update on a story many of our viewers may remember. This young man, really an innocent bystander.
Now, the police department issued a statement saying that this settlement does not reflect the officer's heroic actions that day and that they continue to support him and his service.
In a statement to CBS 2, the city of Des Plaines said in part, in this settlement, the city does not admit to any wrongdoing or liability. Additionally, Officer Armstrong was dismissed from the lawsuit and cleared of any wrongdoing. This settlement does not reflect the heroic actions that Officer Armstrong took that day.
They paid $1.9 million to Ryland Wilder. That's the admission of fault.
Now, this story prompts questions about police procedures and these high-risk situations. How can law enforcement balance the aggression and trying to stop violent individuals with civilian safety? What are the best practices? How can police minimize collateral damage? Now, in retrospect, I think this is the best outcome from both parties, but what do you think? The way the situation looks to me is that in the heat of the moment, this officer got tunnel vision. He only fixated on the target and not the environment around him. Now, to be fair, this person had just shot another officer or shot at another officer. So understanding all those circumstances, an armed suspect just shot another officer running into this building and now is cornered, and this cop is in hot pursuit following right behind him. Guns pointing at each other, he sees the guy and the guy turns. If you're that officer, do you pull that trigger? I think a reasonable officer may pull the trigger, even though it's an accident. Now, unfortunately for this teen, he may never be able to play music again the way he did before.
He's had more than 15 surgeries, but still has no feeling in his left arm, hand, or fingers.
It's affected my playing a lot.
Before the shooting, Wilder was a very good guitar player. One of the youngest to ever perform at Riot Fest. He can still play, just not at the same level. But music is still very much a part of his life.
But this is unfortunately the life that we live in. We can all lose everything in one moment. Hopefully this teen will be compensated for his injuries and life will go on. But what do you guys think about what happened here? Do you think this officer should have been criminally charged? Do you think he should still continue to be an officer? I think at the end of the day, this cop did what he needed to do. It's just, it was an unfortunate accident that occurred. But tell me where I'm wrong in the comment section. My name is Nate the Lawyer. I'll see you next time. Peace.